I mentioned to a couple of people that I was sitting down with you today, meeting this woman called Janelle, and they're like, oh, I love her.
You see what you're really capable of when you have to meet yourself at such a depth. Everything is a choice. How I show up is a choice. Control is a fear response. And underneath that fear is, I don't think I could handle it. Like, you can only control your attitude.
This calling to teach others, very beautiful to watch.
Because I think one of the greatest gifts that came from loss for me was the gift of presence and depth and ritual and gratitude. I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but let it go. Like, honestly, let it go.
Tell us the story. Welcome to Mind You. I'm Charlotte Cummings. For more than 20 years, I've been helping people make sense of the patterns shaping their lives. Why we keep having the same arguments, making the same choices, or feeling stuck even when we know better. If your life looks like it's working from the outside but doesn't always feel that way on the inside, you're in the right place. Here we talk about relationships, identity, work, parenting, and all the messy parts of being human, looking at what's really going on beneath the surface. Because when you understand your patterns, changing them becomes possible. I'm really glad you're here. Let's get into it. Well, today's episode is with Janelle Brunton-Rennie, and this is an incredible conversation. Janelle, for a number of years now, has shared her experience of walking through the grief of losing her husband, Kurt. She had a 4-month-old baby at the time he was diagnosed with cancer, and within a year, he had passed away. She has found a strength within herself that is absolutely remarkable, and she's got so much here to share today in this episode for whatever difficult thing you're facing, or for just some encouragement to get through life loving others well. I hope you really enjoy this conversation. And I have to tell you to start with that as I mentioned to a couple of people that I was sitting down with you today, a soccer mum on Saturday and a friend last week, I said, this is what I'm doing next week, and meeting this woman called Janelle, and they're like, I love her.
Where was this at? In Christchurch?
Yeah.
Aww,
And
bless.
particularly, they were two women who said, I've literally followed her like right from the beginning. I've been there since like 2019 or something they were quoting.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have these things where I'm stopped in the supermarket and people are really apologetic. Like, I am so sorry. And I'm like, no, it's fine, totally. And they're like, so this is going to sound creepy and I don't want to sound like a stalker, but I follow you on Instagram and I just want to say that la 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 la, like, and I'm like, and they always say, and I've been there since the beginning. That's a big one. I've been there since the beginning. And I think when you share a journey so openly and so honestly and vulnerably, people genuinely feel like they really know you. And they do, because I've shared myself ugly crying on social media, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is a sense of camaraderie that people feel, and I totally get it, and I'm okay with people coming up and being like that, because I also feel it's part of when we share ourselves so openly and honestly, that's just part of it, is that people are going to feel that they know you and they understand your story. And in essence, they really do, even if they haven't met me in person yet. So I kind of love it.
Yeah, except it keeps happening to me that I get recognised when I'm in togs. And I can't say I've ever shared myself in togs online before, really. And so
Togs. I mean, how often are we out and about in togs?
I'll be at a pool
Where are
and
you?
someone will come up to me. Because my audience is like primarily mums.
Right.
So I'm at a pool, I'm going on a hydro slide, something's happening, and
Like
a mum
Hamner
in the
Springs,
queue. Yes.
here I am. Yeah, okay. And there's a whole new level of wow.
Yeah.
Especially if they give you a cuddle.
I
Hi,
know.
I feel like I knew you.
100%. I'm like, no, this is it's a little bit far. I feel like as well, though, we haven't yet developed the etiquette as a society for quite knowing how to navigate. I actually already know you. Or I already know quite a bit about you.
So because social media and the whole digital world is a relatively new thing, newish for our generation, when we do, I see people even from time to time, and I'm like, I know this person. How do I know this person? And then my brain goes, actually, I've seen them on something. I don't know this person.
Yeah.
But it's a really hard thing to discern between the two. So I totally get it.
Yeah.
You're right. We have no etiquette developed yet. Yeah. But with us, just come and say hi. It's fine.
100%.
Apparently the tog hugging is not fun.
Not so much that.
For people not in New Zealand listening, togs are swimsuits.
Yeah, that.
It's
Great
in
thing
our
to share.
swimsuits.
Yeah, totally. And you mentioned before Hanmer Springs, which is a great segue into the fact that I currently live in North Canterbury and you're from North
I am
Canterbury.
from North
Yeah.
Canterbury. I was born and bred in North Canterbury. I have been in Auckland. I said to my parents when I took a job in Auckland, don't worry, I'm not going to become a Jaffa. I'm going to be there 5 years and I'm coming home. And I have been in Auckland like 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years this year. I think it's 2026 that it was 20
Wow.
years. So I spent the first 23 years in North Canterbury and also in Christchurch where I went to school and university. And then I moved to Auckland and I can't see an adjustment happening anytime soon. I'm pretty happy up here.
Yeah. But that background of growing up in like small town, rural New Zealand
Totally.
is part of, I've heard you talk about the resilience that came from that, your understanding of kind of keeping on going that was perhaps grounded in that time.
It's interesting. I grew up on a farm. I'm super comfortable in my gumboots, herding sheep, doing all the farm girl things. Like I was very, very hands-on on the farm, and I can still go home like I did a couple of weekends ago for the long weekend. And I'm super involved in farming, and I can still do all the stuff and help drench a mob of sheep, and that's great. And then you can come to Auckland and have your hair and makeup done and sit on an incredible podcast and still be right at home. So
Love
yes,
it.
I feel like I have a really large bandwidth for capacity. But at the same time, yes, growing up on a farm, my father is a good old-fashioned North Canterbury rugby man, and I really credit my dad to the mindset that I've had. I didn't understand at the time how important that mindset that he installed in my sister and I was going to be. And it's not until I've had to navigate what I've navigated that I am just so eternally grateful for the groundedness, the resilience, the really, how do I say it? Whilst using languages that you can use on a podcast, just really like muck in and get stuff done. And oh well, what's done is done. How do we make the most of it, or the best of it, or get on with it? That's what it is. It's a really get on with it attitude. Like I can show up and be the best version of me. There are things that are not in my control, and how do I graciously move through those things and try to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel also like I need to tell you that I swear all the fucking time.
Oh,
Just to
do you
clarify
know,
that.
my central nervous system just like sighed with relief. I will try and be well behaved, but I can be a little bit naughty when it comes to those things. So that is good.
No,
I have
absolutely.
permission if emphasis is required to drop an F-bomb. So
totally.
thank you, Charlotte. Thank you.
I grew up on the west coast of New Zealand. I took my husband home when he was going to meet my dad and going to ask permission to marry me. It happened to be like the first time that he was meeting my dad, and he was like, "What the heck has happened to you that we've got back to your hometown and you just swear all the time?" But it's totally a thing.
Oh, okay. We're totally
We're
kindred
good.
spirits. I think it's also growing up on a farm. Like you grow up around sheep and animals and dogs, and there's always swearing at dogs. And so I can be far too colloquial with my language. So thank you. When you said that, I genuinely just went, oh,
no, you're good.
Okay, I can't ruin it by saying a bad word.
No,
We're
you're
good.
totally
We're good.
Yeah. And so you are known for having shared so much of your personal journey around grief and the loss of your husband, Kurt. Tell us the story.
Kurt and I, he was my best friend, like my very best friend in the whole world. And I feel eternally grateful to have been loved so incredibly and so beautifully and so wonderfully by that man. I feel like so much of my healing and me stepping into the first best version of me at the time was because when you know that someone loves you for every single cell in your body, there's so much power in that. And I am so, so grateful for his love and how much power that love gave me. We got married. We just had this really, I always have described our love as it was as effortless as breathing. So we were very, very tight, I guess you would say, as a unit. We did everything together. We didn't even like to be outside of each other's orbit, in all truth. And then we had a baby, and Sage, who is now almost 9, came along, and I remember thinking in the new year, and Sage was like 4 months old, and I went and I took my like journal to One Tree Hill because I was like, I'm just going to go take a little bit of a couple of hours, and I went for a walk and I journaled, and I remember thinking, I've made it.
Mm.
I've gone through the birth of my first child. I've navigated getting my business through that as well because
Mhm.
there's no maternity leave when
Yeah.
you have your own business and a baby. My marriage is great. Everything's
Mm.
great. I've made it.
Mm.
And I think, and it was my wedding anniversary, I think, the very next
Mm.
day. And I remember putting this post up on Instagram,
Mhm.
and I still very clearly remember the hashtag, which was still a big thing back then, was forever blessed.
Aw.
And so that was the 10th of January 2018.
Mm.
And then the next day, Kurt, who was the word that came to mind was an Adonis. He was a incredibly fit, healthy, glorious human being,
Mm.
walked out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around him and said to me, Jay, does this feel a little
Mm.
bit like solid to you? And he like
Mm.
pushed on his stomach. And I did, but I thought, no, I was doing my hair and the makeup at the time, and I turned around and I said to him, I pushed on it, and I was like, yeah, you should go
Mm.
get that looked at. And I thought nothing else of it because honestly, this man never gets a cough, cold, or flu. This
Mhm.
man is as robust as I've ever met. He's totally fine.
Mm.
And in that day, my life unraveled.
Mm.
Um, in a way that has taught me a lot, and we'll touch on this later, about control and perceived
Mm.
control and fear and all sorts of things. So Kurt, being super health focused,
Mhm.
bless him, went straight to the doctor that day, got an appointment straight away, went in, he went to the ultrasound, and when we're at the ultrasound, we always chat to the sonographer or
Yeah.
whatever they're called and go, oh, does it look all good?
Yeah.
And he said, and he said something, and the person with the machine said, oh, I'm going to have to get my
Mm.
boss to have a look at this.
Yeah.
And he said in that moment he knew something wasn't right.
Mm.
And then they said, we're going to send your results back to the doctor,
Mm.
and you need to go back to your doctor.
Yeah.
And so he rang me, and now Kurt was again a very happy, very chill guy. And when he
Mhm.
rang me on the way back to his doctor, there was something not like his
Mm.
voice was not right. We were already both incredibly worried because he was like,
Mm.
something's not right, and we all, yeah. And then I went back to the doctor and was told that he had a large mass growing on his spleen that was the size of an eggplant.
Mm.
You jump on Dr. Google,
Yeah.
you do all the stuff. And I'm a very optimistic, positive person by
Mm.
nature. So I was like, look, there's a chance that this is literally just a benign mass and it's all
Yeah.
going to be fine.
Yeah.
And you may know the cliff notes. It was not
Mm.
fine. By the time Kurt went by the time he had biopsies, which was 2.5 weeks later,
Mhm.
he actually ended up in hospital so unwell before we even got the biopsy results. So we
Mm.
actually received them in hospital. The eggplant mass was now the size of an American football.
Wow.
He was incredibly, incredibly sick.
Mm.
And there are moments in life, and everyone will have these, where you look back and you can genuinely, it's like you're out of body and it's like you pull up and you're looking down at yourself
Mm.
in this experience. And I was standing in the hospital hallway
Mm.
with him in a room, incredibly unwell, and the doctor saying to me, does your husband have a will? There's a
Oh.
very good chance he's not going to make this.
Wow.
And even as I talk about that, I can feel it firing that trauma
Mm.
response through my body, because there are some experiences or moments
Mm.
that imprint on us,
Yeah.
and you never forget those moments.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I allowed myself to contemplate the idea um, that maybe he wouldn't
Mm.
make this. That was very short lived, however, because
Mm.
again, the optimist in me and the person who genuinely believed in my husband's superhumanness,
Mm.
because Kurt was also an incredibly gifted athlete,
Mm.
a Mr. Universe
Mhm.
bodybuilder. He was, man, the man was, in my
Mm.
mind, he was superhuman.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, he'll be fine because he's not ordinary.
Mhm.
He's extraordinary. He'll
Mhm.
pull through this. Uh, and then, yeah, he initially responded incredibly well
Mm.
to chemo intervention.
Yeah.
And we thought, with the chemo responding well, we were told, hey, look, it's tested as this. It should be
Mm-hmm.
it should be a very easy program now for him.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 5 months. You're going to be through this. You're going to be
Mm-hmm.
out the other side, and you're going to be enjoying life together.
Mm.
And I believed that with
Mm.
every cell in my body because
Mm.
that's what we were seeing. He was responding incredibly well to chemo and intervention. We were also doing all of the things that we
Mm-hmm.
thought we should be at home,
Yeah.
and saying that before he even got sick, to be honest.
Yeah.
We were living an incredibly chemical-free
Yeah.
sort of really healthy, really fit kind of life.
Mm.
And we went to Fiji to celebrate the end of his treatment
Mm-hmm.
and life starting again. And when we were in Fiji, there was a couple of things happen where I was like, oh,
Mm.
and they maybe reminded me of when he'd been incredibly unwell at the start.
Mm.
And I put that down to the man has just been through
Yeah.
5 or 6 months of chemo.
Yeah.
He's going to have, it's going to be a long road to recovery,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And then we got back from Fiji and things unraveled again very quickly. And once again, we were in hospital. I remember very quickly him signing a will because it hadn't been signed, because we got to remember we were getting through this and it was not a
Yeah.
big thing. And we blew through both of they come at you with different options
Mm-hmm.
for chemotherapy, and both of those didn't work.
Mm.
And then they said, there's nothing else that we can do
Yeah.
for your husband.
Mm.
These are words that you
Mm.
see on the television.
Yeah.
You know, you see someone say that, but you never expect ever to hear those words said about your loved one.
Your person. Yeah.
And in those words, though, I found a piece of me that I think had been lying dormant for a very long time.
Mm.
And I remember looking at this nurse that had just told me this.
Mm.
And I said to her, no,
Mm.
we're going to go to Boston, or we're going to get him on a
Mm.
CAR T trial. We're going to get immunotherapy treatment.
Mm.
And I kept thinking, not on my watch. Like, he's not
Yeah.
going to die on my watch. It was this big, again, when you go through these massive life upheavals, there's like certain language that comes up and I don't quite know where it's from.
Mhm.
But I was like, not on my watch.
Mm.
This will not happen on my watch.
Mm.
So we actually worked incredibly hard. And through a couple of connections and a lot of emails, we were actually able to get Kurt on a CAR T trial in Boston. Sage had her first birthday party,
Wow.
and he flew out to Boston the next day.
Mm.
With CAR T, I believe at the time it was about an 80% success rate in people like him who hadn't had the response, a remission response from chemotherapy intervention. So once again, I thought, we're going to be fine. And we got him to Boston. He was incredibly unwell at the time, but we managed to bridge him through to the CAR T treatment.
Yeah.
And he received his supercharged immunotherapy cells. And it was another one of those moments where I can see it. It's like an out-of-body thing, and I can see it happening. And they're putting this tiny little, what looks like 2 teaspoons of fluid in a syringe, and you're thinking, I've done it.
Yeah. This is it.
I've done it. We've got him the treatment. He's going to be fine. This is like, obviously this was part of our journey, was to do this. He's going to be fine. And I was flying between New Zealand and Boston when Kurt was based in Boston, and his mum was there, and I was doing 2 weeks in New Zealand, 2 weeks in Boston, because we had a baby. There's no place for a baby or a toddler in a hospital the whole time. I'm running a business, we're running the households, I'm doing everything I can, and I'm going between the two. And I even flew out that night as scheduled, because it was like, he's got the cells now, we're going to be fine. And it wasn't fine. And I was probably initially, he had the cells. He had such a large volume of disease in his body that it caused a side effect called neurotoxicity. And Kurt went into a coma, and I flew back to Boston. In fact, I'd tell you something quite beautiful. When Kurt actually went unresponsive, the only thing he would respond to was my voice. So they would hold the phone up, and I'd speak to him, and he would
Oh,
He would respond and they would see a response which showed him that his brain was still active.
wow.
But I feel like it's so incredibly beautiful knowing that you can affect someone like that.
Yeah.
Like even when they're unresponsive
Mm,
to everybody else, they
mm,
hear your voice and there's still
yeah.
a response and a movement.
Yeah.
And I flew back to Boston, and I didn't know at the time, but they had actually chosen to stop the CAR T process.
Mm,
At that point, men or people that had done the trial often receive irreversible brain damage
mm,
if they continue. So they stopped the process, and Kurt came out of his coma.
mm,
And to keep it shorter, this bit, they ran some more tests, did some more scans. There was
mm,
still a little bit of cancer left.
mhm,
It didn't respond to
mm.
some of the other treatments that may kickstart the immune cells off again.
Yeah.
I got a call on Boxing Day, another one of those moments.
Mm,
It's probably the most visceral one. And I actually went back when I was at home 2
mm.
weekends ago and stood on that spot
Oh,
where I stood
gosh.
when I got that call.
Yeah.
And it was Kurt on the phone on Boxing Day, and he told me, and keep in mind the only reason we weren't together is that he was meant to be home actually by
Mm,
Christmas,
mm,
and right on his way healing.
mhm,
And so we only found out on the Boxing Day
mhm,
that they hadn't been able to restart the
mm,
cells. And I remember him saying innumerable tumors
mm,
and something else, which I
mm,
can't recall right now. And I remember, again, it's one of those moments where like I let out this sound that I've never heard before and I hope to never hear it again. And my
mm,
legs collapsed underneath me
mm.
and I like slumped onto the ground, onto the grass. And it was that moment
Yeah.
that I knew we were done.
Yeah.
And my dad, I got back up. My father walked around the corner
Mm.
and I just fell into him, really.
Oh.
So I remember those. And then it was really just a blur trying to get
Mm,
him safely back home to New Zealand
mm.
so we could all be together.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, what ensued has been
Mm,
quite a journey in the
mm.
last 7.5 years.
Yeah. And I just want to really hold up how amazingly you've done in sharing the story and all that it says
Thanks, Charlotte.
about your strength and about the work you've done, the processing you've done, the connection you've had back with yourself through all of this trauma
Mm,
is so evident in how you tell the story, and your spirit is so evident in how you tell the story.
thank you.
Mm,
I mean, I'm obviously not at the point where I can recall our story without there being, a
yeah.
few tears, but I feel like they are, it's not that they're controlled. I just feel like
Mm,
it's the tears that show
mm,
emotion. But once upon a time,
mm,
there's words that you couldn't even
mm.
speak
Yeah.
or allow yourself to recall these things.
Yeah.
So over time and through doing a lot of work and a lot of reading and a lot of
Mm,
healing, you can start to recall these things and
mm.
give them the space to acknowledge them, which I think is important in healing
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. Well done. It's a huge road to be able to look back on and talk about in the way that you have. And I know that there'll be people who are just on the edge of their seats listening to what it
Oh,
is that you've shared and seeing the things in their own lives that have been hard too. Mm. And I think one of the remarkable things is you had to keep going. And like
yeah.
we hear when you tell the story, all of the ways that the process was dated by how old Sage was.
Mm,
And, this happened at this age. And here you are with a business, having gone out on your own with your PR company and a little baby to keep going for. And I remember hearing you talking on a podcast before about, you were determined to protect her from the secondary losses,
that's it.
from other impacts of this. And that was a huge part of you keeping going. Tell me about those early days and what it looked like to have to keep going.
It's sometimes when I recall those early days, I can't quite believe that that was me.
Mm,
Like I still look back at it and I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I mean, having a
mm,
1-year-old is tough
mm,
enough. Running a business with a 1-year-old
yeah.
is hard enough, but running a business with a 1-year-old and a dead husband
Mm.
and being so deep in grief like that. I
Mhm.
mean, I feel like I got the opportunity to meet myself
Mm.
at some depths that maybe a
Mm.
lot of people never would, and so maybe there's a gift in that.
Mm.
You see what you're really capable of
Mhm.
when you have to meet yourself at such a depth. I was so motivated. I just remember thinking, Sage has already lost enough. She
Mm.
will not lose anything else.
Mm.
That was my key motivator. And
Yeah.
again, it's this not on my watch
Yeah.
language that for some reason is in there. She's lost enough.
Mm.
She's lost her father. I'm not going to lose our house. I'm not
Mm.
going to lose my business. I'm not going to lose anything else.
Yeah.
And I just, I poured myself into work.
Mm.
But at the same time, I was exhausted.
Mm.
Like grief is exhausting on a level that I don't think my words could do justice to.
Mm.
It is all encompassing. It is, I was in an incredibly dark place and in an incredible amount of pain
Mm.
for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I just took, at first, it was each moment as it came,
Mm.
and then it became each hour as
Mhm.
it came, and then it was each day
Mhm.
as it came. And I just kept basically taking it yard by yard
Yeah.
or step by step or hour by hour and
Yeah.
day by day. And I can also say that that 2.5 year period was incredibly slow.
Mm.
Life at the moment for me moves really
Yeah.
fast, and I'm trying to be incredibly present so that I don't blink and it's gone.
Yeah.
That 2.5 years,
Yeah.
also keep in mind, you layer it with the pandemic
Mm.
and being at home
Yeah.
in lockdowns and the incredible loneliness that came from
Mm.
that scenario as well. And
Mm.
everyone was at home with their families. And I was, for me, year 2, I
Mm.
remember seeing that year 2, I read a thing that year 2 was worse than year 1 in
Mhm.
grief. And I was like, nope, I don't choose to believe that. That is not going to be my story.
Mhm.
Nothing can be as bad as year 1.
Yeah.
For me, year 2 was possibly as bad as year 1
Mm.
because once the shock's worn off and then the pandemic was layered on top
Yeah.
of it, and I saw everyone walking around our neighborhood with their family
Mhm.
units, and I was just trying to hold it together with
Yeah.
a very energetic, very full on baby
Yeah.
and try and save my business from the pandemic as well.
Yeah.
I felt an even greater sense of the word would be injustice
Mm.
because it didn't feel just that my husband had been taken from me.
Yeah.
And then it felt incredibly cruel to layer
Mm.
on top of it these additional challenges.
Mm.
But again, that language,
Mm.
like you just have to keep going. You just
Yeah.
have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. You just have to keep taking it day by day.
Mm.
And for me, I think the biggest thing was I was quite good at not allowing myself to feel too sorry for myself.
Yeah.
And maybe that's my dad and me saying, like, someone's always got it
Mm.
harder than you, or
Mm.
someone's always, like, look at what you've got, look at the things you've still got,
Mm.
find the gratitude for what you still have
Mhm.
and cultivate that, because I really think in life we're always presented with choices,
Mhm.
and you have the choice to believe that this is the very worst thing in the whole world possible, which it is. Like, what,
Mm.
like, there's no I'm not gaslighting myself to
Mhm.
say it wasn't. It
Mhm.
was. But you still have the choice to get out of bed in the
Mm.
morning, and you still have the choice to make yourself, for me, it was probably 10 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
You still have the choice to smile and try to be
Mm.
the very best parent that you can,
Mhm.
even when you think you
Mm.
can't, or even when maybe you're not even the best parent that day.
Mm.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You still have the choice. And so I kept reminding myself that it's a choice, everything is a
Mhm.
choice, how I show up is a choice, and
Mhm.
just to try and make the best of the choices that I
Mhm.
had.
Yeah. I think what's incredible as I listen on to your story is the balance of, like, on the one hand, you're going, it's very fucking unfair. Like, look at all these other families walking around the block
It's
around
very
me.
fucking
Doesn't that
unfair.
look lovely? And here I am, working my way through this time with this little baby on my own and desperately fighting against this pandemic on top of
Mm,
managing the heaviness of all this grief.
mm,
So, on the one hand, I hear like the real deep acknowledgement of yourself and the unfairness and the realities.
yep.
And then on the other hand, this keep going, you've got it in you. Spirit that kind of pulled you through that time,
Yeah.
and the whole both things are true.
Both things can be true. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's not that I didn't feel sorry for myself every now and again.
Mm,
And it's not that I didn't again, I have these moments where I literally would scream at the
mm,
universe. I can honestly remember this, and
mm,
I think I've spoken about this before. I was so angry.
mm,
I was, I would say I was really angry at God
mm.
for quite some time for
Yeah,
taking my husband.
yeah.
I had this belief that good things happen to good people. That was
Mhm,
one of my innate beliefs.
mhm.
And I can hand on heart say we were really good people.
Yeah,
We were trying to do good things and be
yeah.
great people and make positive impact. And so it
Mm,
feels incredibly unjust that something like that would happen. And I was angry. And
mm.
that's one of the stages of grief is
Yeah,
anger. And I also think as women,
yeah,
we're taught that it's not okay to be angry.
yeah,
But man, I was an angry bitch.
yeah,
I was a sad, angry
yeah, yeah.
bitch.
And that had to come out too,
Yeah,
because what happened was really unfair.
really unfair. It came out of the
Yeah,
gym. I think you actually
yeah.
need to have
Mm,
good avenues and
yeah,
good channels.
yeah.
And I was fortunate that I had also been a bodybuilder
Mm,
and I knew how to train.
mm,
So the one priority that I made was
mhm,
I went it actually is the reason I think I got through as well
mhm,
as I did. I went to the gym. I didn't talk to anybody.
mhm,
I didn't want to make any friends.
mm,
I would put a cap on
mm.
and hope that no one saw me,
Yeah.
basically. And I must have looked like this big, dark energy
Mm,
just moving around the gym from corner to corner. But I would go to the gym and I would just train
yeah,
and I lifted some heavy weight and I
yeah.
would channel all of this anger
Mm,
into my training. And it was the best, safest.
mhm.
In hindsight, I am so lucky that I
You
had
had
that
that.
avenue
Yeah,
because emotion has to be released somehow.
yeah,
And it was the gym for me.
yeah. And through that time, I know you've talked about, the practices that you found that
Mm,
helped carry you through. And here you are a number of years ahead as well. And I'm curious about those practices and what's kind of held up, what you initially found helpful, what
mm.
you still hold on to today that supports you.
I I have a quote in my bathroom on my
Mm,
vision board, and it says, um, God, I can't even recall it now. It's like to make life an art. That is
mhm,
it's something around making life an art. And what I did was I pulled life back to very small moments,
mm,
and I created these rituals.
mhm,
And I actually think they initially happened because they made me feel connected to Kurt.
mm,
So I got up every morning by 5:30
mhm,
and I sat and I watched the sunrise with him.
mhm,
And I would make myself espresso
mm,
and I would meditate and I would light incense and I would be with him in the sunrise. And
mm.
so I carved out this also my baby was still asleep. So it gave
Yeah,
me
yeah,
it gave me half an hour or an hour
yeah.
of me time.
Mm,
And I created these little rituals and these little moments where I could feel connected to him.
mm,
But I also think those little rituals and those moments are incredibly healing.
mhm.
And I have still got those moments in my life.
I'm just going to briefly pause to thank the sponsor of today's episode, RK. I have really sensitive skin and I've been loving the RK skincare range, especially their bed balm, which has become part of my nightly routine. RK is crafted right here in New Zealand by skin therapist Renee Hohaya, who has more than 25 years of experience, using clinical grade ingredients to create skincare that's effective, uncomplicated, and feels beautiful on your skin. If you're looking to top up your skincare, head to rkskin.com and use the code MINDYOU for a generous 20% off your first order. The link's in the show notes too.
And any time that something's happened over the last few years, I know that going back to these moments of grounding
Mm-hmm.
are really critical for me, because being making sure that I'm in my body and that I'm connected to something greater than myself has been incredibly important. I write.
Yeah.
I share my emotions.
Yeah.
And I try and use my experience to help others. And initially that was to help others going through grief. And I was very honest about grief on my social media. But that's morphed and grown into trying to inspire others to live in a deeper way, in a better, deeper, more appreciative way, without having to go through the hell that I went through to get to that. So I try and share and use my words to help people more greatly appreciate their families, or the sunrise, or when they first sip their espresso, or when they light their incense, and to be more present and live life with more depth. Because I think one of the greatest gifts that came from loss for me was the gift of presence and depth and ritual and gratitude.
Yeah, amazing. Can I go completely off script?
Sure.
Well, I think that this is something I've heard in what you've shared.
Okay.
I also noticed on your Instagram feed a really traditional looking faith experience photo of like a child's first communion or baptism or something.
Okay, I like that we're going to talk about this.
And I'm hearing something that really stands out for me, kind of selfishly, but I know that it stands out for other people too, is this mixture of traditional faith and spirituality and maybe some more modern mindfulness, different practices. And I'm so down with that mix.
Sure.
I would love to hear
I
how
am
that
that
leans.
mix.
Yeah.
I have always been incredibly spiritual. I've always believed in a power greater than myself. I've always prayed, although I didn't have the words yet. I've always been what you would call pretty woo-woo.
Yeah.
Maybe super woo.
Yeah.
I always had the crystals and the things.
Me
And
too.
in the loss of Kurt, I had some experiences that are inexplicable if you live in a space where you are very scientifically minded or rationally minded. For example, I'll share a couple, but I mean, I could probably share like 15. I went to see Kurt Lane in state for the first time after he'd passed. And in a very cruel twist of fate, it was a year to the day after I'd shared that picture on my Instagram with the hashtag Forever Blessed.
Yeah.
And I got a call from the funeral directors that he was ready. And I came up, and he was actually dressed in his beautiful 3-piece custom wedding suit. And I realised it was 3:30 in the afternoon on January the 11th, the 10th, and it would have been, he found the lump on the 11th. He died on the 7th the next year, so nearly a year.
Yeah.
I went to see him on the 10th in his wedding suit, and I looked at the clock and it was 3:30, and I realised that I would have been standing walking down the aisle 4 years prior, about to marry this man in this very suit. And in the cruelest twists of fate, I am now seeing him lying in his coffin for the first time. And as I recognised this moment, I felt him.
Yeah.
It's actually quite unbelievable, and you wouldn't believe it unless you'd had it, but he walked up behind me and he put his arms around me, and I can feel it as plain as day, and there was no one else in that room, just me. But he put his arms around me in that moment. And I thought, wow, if there was ever any question of an afterlife or people being in spirit, not that I'd had a question, but I'd also never had a moment so clear.
Yeah.
That was it. So I was like, and I felt him for the first 3 months in numerous ways that were completely inexplicable. I also then went to see, I'm a big plan B person, which is probably what makes me so good at my job, is like, well, this is plan A.
Yeah.
If plan A doesn't work out, we have a plan B.
Yeah.
when we found out that CAR T hadn't worked for us, I actually booked an appointment with a medium that Kurt and I had joked years ago that if either of us ever died, we would go and see this medium because she was like the best one. I'd booked an appointment with this medium. And when I went to see her, I knocked on a door and she said, there's a young man that's been waiting here all day for you. Please come in. He's very excited to talk to you.
Oh.
And we spoke for 90 minutes.
Wow.
And she told me some things that nobody knew, including, she said to me, I'm going to sound incredibly foolish here, but he keeps telling me I have to say this. He says to me, please eat more of those carrots. And I was like, and I actually burst into tears. And I said to her, this was 6 weeks after Kurt had passed, and I said, you wouldn't believe it. I haven't been able to eat in weeks. And last night I sat myself down at the bench and I made myself eat 3 carrots because I knew I needed the nutrients, and I was so nauseous that I couldn't really eat for a long time.
Yeah.
And I ate the carrots, and she said, I'm so pleased I said that because he kept telling me, tell her, but I didn't want to because I didn't think you'd know what it meant. And I was like, oh, no. All right, I'll eat more carrots.
Wow.
Anyway, so I was always someone of spiritual faith. That then led to having some experiences that were inexplicable, which strengthened that faith. And I've always also been someone who's been rather inexplicably obsessed with old churches. And so when Kurt and I even went through Europe, I would go and find the oldest church, or even when I was in Christchurch at high school, I used to go and sit in the cathedral by myself because I was that kind of weird. I would go and sit in all these beautiful old cathedrals around Europe, and I didn't really feel like I felt like a bit of an imposter because I'm like, I'm here, but I'm not someone who goes to church regularly, but this feels to me to be a really sacred, special space.
Yeah.
So I'd go and sit in church and hang out and then leave because I was not meant to be there because and my partner, Max, and I, we decided that we would start going to church more, and that led to us doing a program together within the church. This has led to us both being baptized and to our 3 daughters all being baptized. And my daughter Sage is actually even doing her confirmation and First Holy Communion at the moment.
Wow.
And we are going to be getting married at the church later this year in November. We've just finished our preparation for marriage course.
Wow.
And it's actually been incredibly healing for us as a couple to go through that experience together, because we have created this incredibly sacred space for us. I also think doing the course together, it was incredibly healing for Max. He had only just gone through a divorce, and by going through the course together, and it's just been an incredible thing for our family. So we go to church a lot, and I feel neither of us were married in a church first time around, and what it's done is it's given us something that's special for us and that feels really beautiful for us as a family. So where once I would always talk about the universe, I often now talk about God. But I think the things are interchangeable. I think when you believe in a higher power that operates over us, I don't know if it matters what language you use. I just think there being a belief in a higher power is incredibly healing in itself, or allows us to move through life's greater challenges, maybe knowing that there's help that we can ask for at any time. And so it's my journey through spirituality continues to evolve. I mean, I would have also said at one stage I would have called myself Buddhist. And I did a lot of courses at the Auckland Buddhist Centre. So I believe that whether it's meditation or prayer or ritual or whatever it is for you that reminds you that you can ask for help, is a very, very good thing when you're navigating challenges.
I love that we just had that conversation, because I think there are so many people trying to make sense of this. That, on the one hand, wow, these really traditional faith practices are beautiful and nourishing and uniting and all of those things you described. And then also being someone who has to hold that together with, and then I can have this message about eat more carrots.
More
That
carrots.
comes from somebody
Yeah. I
who
don't
might be
Yeah.
considered left field by others.
Sure. I just think it's about, again, it's not labeling things.
Mhm.
I just think a lot of things can exist.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that can be true, and a
Yeah.
lot of things can exist at one time, and it doesn't matter what language you use. Um, but anything that gives life more meaning,
Mm.
more purpose, more connection,
Yeah.
is a very good thing.
Yeah. I love that you can hold it all together. I'm so down for that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
And you mentioned Mr. Max.
Yeah.
There's so many people excited for you. I can see through that. But it must be a massive journey to let love in again. And I just have to tell you too, I sat with my hairdresser last week and I said, "Oh, do you follow this woman? You really need to follow this woman. She lost her husband a year ago. And it was just
Oh
the 1
wow.
year anniversary when
Which is hard.
when
Well,
I
I
was
remember the
in.
1 year. That's incredibly tough, man.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And we were talking together, and I shared with her a little thing I'd picked up from your page about, it's just like having a second baby. There's this real parallel. Do you think that you can't love anyone more than this first person
Mm.
you loved? The experience that mothers have of your heart expands and multiplies
That's right.
to
Someone
allow a
wrote
second.
someone wrote on that post, "Love is not a pie."
I
And I was
love
like,
that.
isn't that an incredible way of looking
Yeah,
at it? Love is not a pie.
yeah.
Max and I have been friends for 17 years, and we've known each other a very long
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And during COVID, actually, I think he knew we'd kind of lost touch. But you know what? Social media and digital allows you to keep track and in contact with people, even if it's not very regular.
Mhm.
We hadn't seen each other for years, and we actually ran into each other when the girls were at a trampoline park, of
Mhm.
all places. And then I think the lockdowns happened, and we went for a walk together once a week, tried to
Mm.
during the second lockdown,
Mhm.
because I needed like an adult to talk to.
Mm.
And he was going through his own challenges. Work was really challenging for him and some stuff. And so we'd go for these walks and have these
Mm.
massive yarns. And our friendship was really rekindled in that
Mm.
way. And then yeah, he and again, I'm really careful about people's
Mm.
privacy.
Yeah.
But he and his wife separated, and I helped him through that as a friend. And then I think over time we
Mm.
just realized that there might be something more here.
Mhm.
It was also incredibly lovely that our girls were all having play dates together,
Mm.
and they all knew each other, and they all got
Mm.
on brilliantly. And so
Mm.
I was very fortunate that it was something that was able to develop very organically and
Mm.
very authentically
Mm.
over time,
Mhm.
because actually both of us needed a lot of time.
Mhm.
He had his own things to
Mm.
heal and work through. I still had a lot of healing to work through, and I think because of our friendship,
Mm.
we've been able to have a huge amount of compassion for each other
Mhm.
and a huge amount of patience for each other. And we've also really had to show up for each other.
Yeah.
Like, we've really been tested,
Yeah.
and we are incredibly rock solid.
Mm.
And I think that's a real testament
Mhm.
to our friendship, first and foremost.
Yeah. How do you get through those difficult points where, it's a heavy day for you or there's
Mhm.
something happening for him? What does that look like?
We've had we've had lots of therapy and counseling together, because I try to
Mm.
always change the words I think to I feel, because really it's coming from that place that's deep seated in your chest, rather than your head can like
Mm.
get you wrong all the time, but you
Yeah.
always know in your heart. So it's an I feel response for me.
Yeah.
We've done lots of work together, because each of us had some big experiences to
Mhm.
heal from and to heal through.
Mhm.
And we've also worked a lot on our communication skills
Mhm.
and, oh man, all sorts of stuff. Like we've really had to do the work.
Mm.
But we are incredibly strong
Mm.
as a result of it.
Mhm.
And we have so many tools and techniques to come back to. I have an incredible amount of what's the word I'm looking for? Appreciation for
Mm.
blending families,
Yeah.
like blending a family and the challenges that can have.
Mm.
And he and I are both incredibly conscious people.
Mhm.
We always want to do the right thing. We always want to do the best by people.
Mm.
And so because of that, we're incredibly aware of I keep saying the word incredibly, we're so aware of the kids
Mhm.
and making sure that they are they are so happy and comfortable and loved and cared for and well looked after. And it's a lot blending a family when you are so aware of making sure that everyone is moving through the world as best as we can be. So we've got lots of tools and have had a lot of help to make sure that the girls are happy, that the girls have a safe space to talk about their feelings, that the girls know how incredibly loved and special they are. But when Max and I first started seeing each other, there's a huge amount. I was seeing somebody and making the decision to allow myself to be vulnerable in love again was huge. And it took a lot for me. And it actually, I thought I was in a pretty good space. It actually brought up a huge amount of grief. And so I had a really challenging, probably the first year to 18 months of our relationship, allowing myself to be open to the possibility of being hurt again, because my heart was really only still healing. And I haven't spoken about this before, but I actually spoke to Max and he said he was okay with it. In a strange twist of fate, Max actually has had the same cancer that Kurt had.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that. I knew that Max had cancer. I've really never spoken about this. And I remember mustering up the courage to ask him after we'd been together about 3 months, like, hey, so
What about that?
What about that? I think I really didn't want to know, but I did. What about that? What type of cancer was that? And what was it? And then he said to me, oh, it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma type B, I think, diffuse B, literally the very same kind of cancer. And I really had a crisis of the soul moment. His was caught at stage 1. And Max was incredibly lucky that his lymph node was an easy one to find. And they were able to remove, and his body had been able to completely contain the disease. And Kurt's was obviously stage 4, and his lymph nodes were internal, so it was impossible to have found those. But it was very, very challenging for me to not only allow myself the possibility of allowing love into my life again, but to allow myself to love someone knowing what I knew about that disease was incredibly challenging. And I had to do, again, a huge amount of work to allow myself to move forward in that relationship.
It's just unbelievable. Wow.
I have since, again, it depends on your level of woe as to whether I have since discussed with another psychic, or she actually said to me, so Spirit's telling me that he's actually had the same disease as your late husband. And I said, that's true. I hadn't told her, and I've told no one. So it was obviously Spirit telling her that. And she said it's not by accident that that's happened. And that this is meant to be a part of your healing, is to be able to move through and make peace with that. And I guess there's a part of me that's like, well, if Kurt had survived, there was always going to be the fear of something returning at some stage. So maybe, again, if you're, I can get incredibly, if you look at sliding doors and forks in the road and all these sorts of things, maybe it's almost as though if you step into a different timeline where he did survive or life did continue, and now you have to deal with with those possibilities. So there's that.
How confronting.
Yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. There was parts of me that genuinely wanted to just, because I'm going into that scenario with eyes wide open, right? And again, looking at the possibility of being widowed for a second time in life young was pretty horrendous.
Wow. And I think one of the things I just hear so strongly is how much you've had to look in the eye, how much you've had to confront, and that there have been things that have been wonderful that you have found, but it has not been easy at all. And the amount of work that you have done.
So much work.
I hear it. Like as a therapist, I'm like, I can hear that. I can hear what you've done to be able to say that one little half a line.
I think the thread, Charlotte, is the words that come up for me are control and fear. So I'm someone who has always been very big on control. I mean, you even heard me say I always have to have a plan B. Like, that's a control freak, right? And I was under the assumption before life humbled me that I could control things. And I mean, almost does that sound like we're playing God? You know, like, and so what the lesson in all of this for me, I believe, is control is a fear response. And underneath that fear is, I don't think I could handle it. That's what's underneath those fears for me, is I don't think I could handle it. And it's often said that we're continued to serve the same lesson until we learn the lesson and our response changes. So the response to having to meet those, I didn't think I could handle this moments, and I've had a few of them, is a self-belief that whatever happens, I will be able to handle it, even the very worst possible scenarios. So the lesson for me, I think, is the release of control and is building the belief within myself that, you know, life happens. Everything is really like, control is a construct that is it's actually incredibly naive to believe that we're really in control of many things. I actually believe the only thing you can control is how you show up to something. Like, you can only control your attitude. I can only control how I show up and share today. I don't know how it's going to be received. I don't know who's listening to this podcast who might have like a lightning bolt moment, or who might listen to it and think, I can control everything. Because I used to think the same thing, if that's what you're listening. But when you're served time and time again these lessons that show you that we're actually not in control, we can only control our belief in ourselves and how we show up to these moments that show us we're not in control as much as we believe we are.
Yeah.
And there's and then the word that comes to mind there is surrender. You really just have to surrender and do your best and be your best. And maybe there's a greater plan for us all. And maybe, actually, I had a moment. I actually only shared this with Max a couple of days ago because I kept this one to myself. The day that Kurt found the lump, we didn't sleep that night at all. The second night, we went to bed and I slept like I was in a time portal to breakfast. And I woke up absolutely beside myself, like beside myself. And I had had this dream, and I don't know if you'd call it a dream or where the spirit came to visit me. And I was sitting around a table with my guides, and they told me very clearly that Kurt was going to die. And it was my job to share this experience with the world. And I woke up and told myself that was a load of BS, and I'm still going to make sure that doesn't happen. But thanks for the dream.
Yeah.
That's just my fear space talking.
Yeah.
But if we surrender and we allow ourselves to share and to share those lessons and those, I reflect a lot on things like, well, what's the lesson in that? Or what could I have done better? I'm also incredibly hard on myself because I hold myself to this set of standards. And then I'm always like, you could have done better, Jay. So there's a lot more grace that's required when you're one of those people. But it's about surrender, and it's about having grace, and it's about knowing that you're doing the very, very best you can. And then there's a lot around forgiveness that comes into it as well.
Yeah. Gosh. And, you know, it feels like an understatement to me to say that you've shared your experience, because I actually really feel that teaching word strikes me amongst what it is that you do choose to share, that you've got this place to fill, this calling to teach others, not just to share about your experiences, but to share in a way that really practically helps them, that challenges them, that gives them insight that they might not otherwise have had. And I just really want to applaud you for that. It's very beautiful to watch.
When you lose someone, there's a part of me that's like to be able to honor somebody. And so it feels to me that I can continue to honor Kurt and the impact that he had on me by allowing him and the incredible man that he was to impact the lives of as many people as possible, or would be moved or would hear that messaging. So it's around meaning. And again, if it means that his loss is able to help inspire people to give their husbands a hug tonight before they go to bed, or to say sorry because it's not worth going to sleep angry with each other. Just to live a little deeper and love a little more and let the small stuff go. I think I've shared so much around those small things that we can walk around with and hold on to. And I'm telling you, as someone who learnt this first and foremost, all those little things that you hold against your husband, I was absolutely mortified and, dare I say, incredibly embarrassed and ashamed of those tiny little things that I would make a big deal about, because when they're lying there fighting for their life, you reflect on it all and nothing matters. Like nothing else matters other than them continuing to take the next breath. So I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but let it go. Like honestly, let it go. Nothing will matter one day. None of it will matter. Just let it go.
I just feel so honoured that you've had this space today. And I feel like I've just been able to have this little role in asking a few tiny questions, because you're so ready to share the things that you have learnt, not just to share your experiences, but to share what it looks like to love well again, what it looks like to love yourself through an incredibly confronting process, to show up for your daughter through unbelievable hardship, and to confront the fears, the control, everything that you have worked through. And I just am so looking forward to hearing how people respond and who it is that this is for and who it is that this connects with. But what an incredible privilege to sit with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Charlotte.
Thanks for spending this time with me. I hope today's episode has helped you understand yourself a little better and given you something practical to take into life this week. If you found it helpful, I'd love you to follow the podcast, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who might need it too. It really is the best way for more people to find these conversations. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time on Mind You.